What's going on, guys? Hope you guys are having a great day. Welcome back to another video. Today we have our pre-Major 1 power rankings with all the CDL teams for the 2025 season. Going into Major 1, these are the teams who I think are going to perform well. If you go over to my TikTok that'll be linked in the bio this weekend, I have my CDL predictions and my DraftKings prize picks and underdog bets. So if you guys are into gambling, obviously gamble responsibly, but if you guys are into gambling and want to do stuff like player and map props, go over to my TikTok because I will be posting them, and I have had some pretty good luck recently in these past 2 weeks. These games are getting easier to predict for me because I've been watching so much, but let's get into this tier list and let me know what you guys think in the comments. No team, in my opinion, should be D. So what we're going to do is we are actually going to delete this row because I don't think that there is a D team. And this might surprise a lot of people because I'm not going to put this first team into D tier, but I will put them in C tier, and that is the Vegas Falcons. The Vegas Falcons are the worst team in the league if you're looking at it from a broad stance, but I don't think necessarily, especially with this new roster now that they kind of brought in these two players in Whistle and Dahum, I don't necessarily think it's a talent thing. I think it is actually a fundamental thing. If you go back and you look at their matches, they're getting the kills. They're just not doing the simple things, rotating, blocking spawns, picking up cuts, picking up pinches. I'm going to put them in C tier because I think, obviously I didn't say that we're going by records, which we're not. Their record isn't great, but I don't think the record tells the full story of the Vegas Falcons, so we're going to put them in C tier for now. So let's start over here with the Gorillas. The Gorillas, again, that's another team that the record isn't necessarily showing the full story. However, I think it's another one of those fundamental things. And also, they have played some pretty good teams so far. I'm also going to put them in C, but I will go ahead and replace these two, Vegas and Gorillas being all the way down here at the bottom. So Toronto Ultra is a top 3 team in the league. They are by far the best S&D team in the league because they are number 1 in win percentage, they're number 1 in KD, they're number 1 in round wins, they're number 1 in S&D plus minus. They are by far the best S&D team. Going into Major 1, they're 6-0, and I think we're going to continue to see those players go off on. I'm going to put them in S tier because I think they're a top 3 team in the league right now, and there's really not much more to say about Toronto. As long as they clean up their control, I think they honestly have the capabilities of 3-0ing a lot of these players, and they're definitely a heavy hitter going into Major 1 for sure. Next on the list, we have OpTic Texas, the Green Wall. As you guys know, I am an OpTic fan, but I'm going to be realistic about where they are right now. A lot of the matches sometimes I think are kind of the same thing with the fundamentals. I know they're still trying to get used to Hook, and Hook's been playing very well as well. OpTic is another one of those teams that is kind of lighting up the metrics. They are the number 1 team in overall KD, which is actually a pretty crazy stat, and they're the number 1 hardpoint team in the game. Obviously, we just saw what they did to LAT, 100-point club in them. I mean, that was pretty diabolical. They're the best hardpoint team in the game, the number 1 in KD. You know that they have the slaying star power, but they do have to clean it up, not only in S&D, but also in control. But again, OpTic's one of the heavy hitters. I think they're better than Ultra right now, even though the record says that Ultra's better. But in my opinion, I think that OpTic is better at the moment. They're looking like the best team going into Major 1. I'm not saying for the season. They're into Major 1. OpTic looks like the best team. They're putting in the most work. They're streaming their scrims. They're really taking this year seriously, which is good to see as an OpTic fan, of course. So I'm going to put them in S tier, and I believe they're the best team going into Major 1. So they're not moving from the top of S. So now we have Boston Breach. In my opinion, I think they are a top 5 team. So let me just go ahead and put them where I think that they're going to be. I think Boston right now is an A tier team. Kind of the same thing. They have a top 3 KD in hardpoint, and they're like top 5 in S&D in a couple of stats. So I think they're going to be around that area. It's actually surprising with this roster. Obviously, their strength of schedule has been a little lighter, so we could definitely see this change. But I think A is good for Boston Breach, especially with the players that they have. I think Cammy's been playing very well, and I think that they will continue to do so throughout the season. So going into Major 1, I like them at A. Now we're going to move over to the Royal Ravens, and this is a team that I'm a little disappointed by, especially because of the way that they started. They look like they were head full of steam at the beginning of the game. They were coming out, they were absolutely slamming people. They're one of the better S&D teams in the league as well, and I think that Slasher has kind of had that resurgence, which is fantastic to see. Obviously, you love to see that. However, I do think that they slowed down a little bit going into Major 1. To me, they're on par with Boston because of the way that Snoopy in particular has been playing. I would probably take him to kind of edge out that star power of the Ravens, so I'll put them behind Boston. But I think, again, they're like a top 5 team, 4th, 5th, interchangeable. We'll see how it goes going into Major 1, but that's the gut feeling right now. If I had to compare them in Boston, I just think Snoopy and the way that Cammy has been playing just edges them out a little bit going into Major 1, because at the beginning of the game, I thought Carolina was a top 2 team, and they were showing it. I think the Ravens are still going to be good. They're a top 5 team for sure. We're going to see this mix a lot throughout the season. Maybe some upsets down here, of course, but I think this is a pretty good start of the top 5 teams. Of course, we have some argument for probably Thieves, but we'll see kind of how that goes as we go on in the list. I like putting Boston above them, and I will keep them here at the back of A. So that's where I like them going into Major 1. Unfortunately, I think Cloud9 is going to be probably rounding out B, maybe top of B. They could be A because I think they have the upset potential. If I had to pick one team, and I'll make that known right now, and we can come back to this video later. I'm sure I'll make some stuff about it on TikTok, but Cloud9 to me is the team that I think can upset any of these teams at the top, because when they're on, but it's just there's just been a lot of inconsistencies throughout the season, and especially going into Major 1. So Cloud9 to me is a B right now. The Heretics, los Españoles. I don't know about Miami, to be honest. It's a weird one with them, right? Because they're definitely playing well. If you guys remember that red card that I covered, their map 1 against FaZe, they absolutely throttled them. They're probably the best vault control team in the game, even though they got a little bit exposed on that going into these matches. They're a good control team. I think they have the capabilities of being a good S&D team. And I think they're a great respawn team. Real, amazing. Rancor's been playing very, very, very good. This is a tough one for me. I think simply based off what I've seen, I will also put them in the B tier, but I do think that they are better than Cloud9 at the moment. So that's where I would put the Miami Heretics currently. We'll see going into Major 1. Like I said, I do believe that Miami currently going 2 and 3 into Major 1. Again, middle of that pack team, 6th through 7th is where I'll put them. So B, top of B. But over now, we have the LA Thieves. Obviously, they had that S&D blunder against OpTic. I think they're a decent S&D team currently, which the players on the team should be making them a much better S&D team that there are, because there's S&D stars all over this team. They are a good respawn team. I will give them that. Obviously, you have the star power of Hydra. You can never count out a team that has Hydra on it. Scrappy had a bad series, been a little bit inconsistently recently, but I'm not worried about that at all. Scrappy's one of the best players in the game as well. I would confidently put them above Boston Breach, but no higher. They're definitely not S tier, especially not the way that they've looked kind of going into Major 1. Obviously 4-1 over that span. I like them over Boston. I think an argument can be made again for these two back here, which one is on top, but I think LA Thieves just rounds them out in sheer talent. So I like the top of A for LA Thieves, but that's pretty much where they stay for me. Moving on to the team that I probably like to watch the most. Rokkr is so fun to watch because they keep every single series close somehow. They always get these super clutch kills. Estriel and Geo have been playing lights out. Paul has to pick it up. Paul's one of their better S&D players, but he definitely has to pick it up if they're going to start winning more games. I do think Rokkr is another one of those teams with upset potential. But again, there are some inconsistencies at times with them, but I am very impressed by the way that they do play, because they just keep these series close. They're a scare to bet on, trust me, but they do keep these series close. If I had to kind of gun to my head, I'd probably put them above the Miami Heretics, but it's very close with Miami. Do not count Miami out at all. Honestly, this kind of B tier is like the death squad. Like, you don't know which one is going to come out of this death group here. But I think if we're going to round out B and just kind of close that out, I would probably put Rokkr there because they just keep these maps so close. They've played very, very, very tough competition. I mean, if we just look at it, right, I'll pull it up quickly. If you think about the minor, they came back on Gorillas. They won 3-2. They beat Toronto 3-2, and then they take FaZe to game 5 also. So again, they're one of those teams that I think will keep it close. For the minor and obviously the matches so far, I do think that they were a little hot and started to cool down because overall they were 2-4 in the matches. I just think the minor was a very good couple of series for them. I'll put them in this B tier, but they wouldn't go any higher for me until later. So we're gonna do these basically before every major just to kind of see how things are starting to round out, and then we're going to do a big comparison at the end of the year to see which teams went up, which teams went down, who cooled down, who got hot. I think it'll be good to see that at the end of the season. So let's move on to the Seattle Surge. So for Seattle, there really isn't much to say about Seattle. I did obviously cover their map over on the leaderboard if you guys want to check that out. There were a lot of mistakes that were made, especially in the series. They got 3-0'd in the minor. I know the minor isn't really telling of how these things are going to go. I just don't think they have enough talent on that roster. I definitely think roster changes will be made. We'll see a couple of guys from Challengers definitely be on Surge at some point. I think Nasty's good. I think Hicksy's okay. It's just, I think it's hit or miss with them. It's kind of the same thing with the Gorillas, but I mean, if we're comparing the rosters, you know, like 04, Abuza, Nasty, and Hicksy, if we're comparing them to the Gorillas, you know, Kismet, Lins, Skies, they just have better players on the team. I think head up, these guys, it would be kind of like a bloodbath for Gentlemates when they figure it out, because currently, you know, obviously they're struggling a little bit, but in my opinion, Seattle hasn't done anything to show me that they're going to be better. We'll see going into Major 1, obviously, and then after Major 1, they have another match. Maybe I'll do some coverage on it because I do like breaking down their gameplay because there was a lot to critique at the time. So I like them C, middle of C, not quite Vegas Legion, but definitely not better than Gorillas. It's close, but I don't think they're better, so I'll leave them in C as well. And finally, your first minor champions, and they honestly revived the way that they looked, especially after the first few games of the regular season. FaZe finally looks like FaZe again. If you have a team with Simp and Abizi, they cannot be looking the way that they do, especially when their backup is Draza and Celium. They finally look like themselves. I think going into Major 1, they gained that confidence from getting a minor win under them. I think they are a top 3 team along with Ultra and OpTic. I'm not going to put them over Ultra because Ultra has just looked better overall, and they're the best S&D team in the game. FaZe is not the best in any category, but they're good in all of them, right? They're definitely not the best respawn team because that's Texas. The best S&D team is Toronto, so we'll see how they round out, especially this weekend's matches, but then going into Major 1, of course. This seems exactly how I thought it was going to go. You have 3 teams per tier, but so far, I mean, it's very, very, very accurate. If you guys disagree with the list, if you wanted to give your own opinions, let me know in the comments what you guys think. This list seems pretty spot on at the moment. I don't see anything wrong with this list, to be honest. The only one that you could potentially make an argument for is Boston and Carolina. Kind of who gets the nod there. In my opinion, it's Boston, just because of the way that they've been playing, who they've played, and how they've played them. And then the top 3 teams, I think, is probably everybody's top 3. You might still have LAT up there, but I think they have also slowed down. Again, this is subject to change depending on what happens in Major 1. So let me know what you guys think of the roster. I'm operating on a new PC, got a pretty monster PC, so hopefully the quality looks good now. Take a look at my bio for all of my links. Remember, go over to my TikTok if you guys want to see the DraftKings, the Underdog, and the Prize Pick picks. I will be showing you guys the picks that I like going into the weekend, and we are also going to be doing our CDL predictions going into the weekend as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys for the leaderboard this weekend. See you guys.